Nowadays, anything sustainable and environment-friendly is in. This also goes for our sources of power. More and more of the world's power is now harnessed from renewable sources, and one of the most eco-friendly options is solar energy. Can the Philippines follow suit and harness sunlight to power up homes and businesses, and what are the benefits of using solar energy? We talk about that today with James Buskowitz, the founder and CEO of a renewable energy and financing firm. Hello, James, and good morning.
Hello, good morning.
All right, so James, how good and effective is solar power for energy, and how reliable is this? Especially, it's starting to grow right now in the Philippines.
Solar is, in terms of efficiency, we're capturing about 18 to 20% of the actual sun. That's what we can basically convert into power. But in general, it's enough for any rooftop space, for any house, for any commercial business to basically adopt solar and enjoy its electricity savings. Most residentials could easily live off of pure solar energy.
Now, this being one of the cleanest renewable options, the main benefits of it also being pollution-free. Also, of course, we in terms of sustainability, it's all about being pollution-free. In this, one of the strengths of this one of solar power is being, the cleanest. What can you say about that?
I mean, it's definitely. With wind power and solar are both one of the cleanest renewable energy sources. We prefer solar mainly because it's much quicker to deploy, it's much quicker to build. In addition, wind could be loud, and you need much more land area for that. We don't do utility scale solar because we believe that everyone has a roof. We have enough roofs around the world. And that certainly should be enough to produce at least half the energy a certain country would need, right? So in terms of carbon emissions, we're looking at a 1.5, so a year and a half payback period to basically completely be carbon neutral on the solar PV system itself. The same is probably true with wind. However, not everyone, solar is very accessible. Any homeowner, any commercial business owner can easily just find a solar supplier and say, I want solar on my roof, I want to contribute to climate change. And the same is not true with wind.
You mentioned about it being accessible and how it's readily available for homes and businesses and establishments also, but now with the growth of the awareness of going solar power as an alternative, of course, source of energy. Is it right now? What is the status right now in the Philippines? Is it doing a massive growth already over the years, or do we need more push for people to be able to be aware that this is the way to go?
I think awareness is very important. At the moment, we have about 500 to 700 megawatts of solar installed in the Philippines. For a country with a population of about 100 million people, that's pretty much at its infancy. Countries like Australia have about a fifth of our population here, and they have 7 gigawatts of rooftop solar alone. Countries like Germany has a population of about 85 to 89 million people, and has about 40 gigawatts of solar. So we're probably about 1% of what we should be doing. And I think in terms of awareness, it'll probably take a few more, maybe a year or two until that could really be commercialized. But we're really looking at something about, solar should be really doing about 400 megawatts a quarter. That's sort of the target we're looking at, and it's pretty realistic in terms of, the Philippines requires a lot of energy. It's very hot, a lot of air conditioning, and especially if the way the Philippines is currently growing as an economy, there's a lot of industrialization, and of course the demand for electricity is still continuously going up. So we're really looking at solar being the best option to provide clean, sustainable energy to power the economy of the Philippines.
Well, James, if I'm the typical Filipino layman, what is the basic come on for me to be able to go to this alternative? Is cost efficiency and the savings one of those factors?
Definitely. Most people aren't actually aware how easy it is to adopt solar. For example, our company, the reason why we're successful in our business is we provide complete financing solutions. We don't just provide the solar panels, we don't just sell them. For a lot of people, it is quite expensive to just spend the amount of money to adopt solar panels and get a return on investment in 4 to 7 years. But it's something we are generally okay with. So what we normally offer is a term loan which can be extended typically 3 to 7 years, but in some cases, depending on the size, we can even extend it up to 15 years, which most banks in the Philippines don't even do. Other options are leases, so there are solar leases available. We're not the only company that provides those. And of course, there are power purchase agreements, especially with the adoption of the green energy option. Every consumer is basically able to choose their source of power, and if they choose solar or renewables, that could have a tremendous effect on the rise of and additional capacity of renewable energy in the Philippines. So if you're looking at solar in general, the cost per kilowatt hour is probably around half of what a residential resident would pay per kilowatt hour. So it's efficient, it's very cheap, and of course there are a lot of financing options available. And as mentioned, with a solar lease or with the power purchase agreement, you can easily it's a no cash upfront option, where we install the system for free at a business or at a business and sell the power at a much cheaper rate than what the distribution utility sells for.
On a grander scale, James, how will this help a particular economy, maybe a municipality, a city, or make this Metro Manila?
Well, solar is a multi-billion-dollar industry. It creates a lot more jobs than other types of energy sources, than conventional plants. It's really quick, and it's cheaper than coal today. So in terms of economy, it's one way to prevent inflation, another way to create jobs in the Philippines, and I think most businesses are driven. I think one of the biggest challenges in the Philippines is operating a business at the least amount of electricity cost, because the power cost in the Philippines is probably one of the highest. Is one of the highest in the world, and so we're there are different challenges around the world. In Saudi Arabia, for example, you have it's water. In Germany, it's labor. In the Philippines, it would be cost of electricity. And I think the best way to manage that is by bringing a innovative technology, a proven technology, and something that'll last at least 30 years, 40 years, and cost less than a conventional power plant would cost, like coal or that's basically just polluting and will be more expensive in the long run, especially considering the Philippines uses about 50% of its energy comes from coal. And the problem with coal, about majority of the coal is imported, which is then again subject to exchange rate risk. And now that the peso is a bit weaker to the dollar, it makes the import of coal a lot more expensive, which is also one of the reasons why there was a recent price hike in electricity cost. So to prevent that, to prevent the volatility in pricing, and of course the limitation on fossil fuels, which again are limited, and generally anything that's limited could increase in cost if there is continuous demand. And so our main goal is to lessen the dependency on fossil fuels, switch back to renewables, especially solar, because it's the easiest to deploy, and create cheaper energy that can help drive businesses and especially save residents and Filipinos money. The average Filipino actually spends about 20% of their income on electricity. So that's another very interesting fact that is quite significant and really should be countered.
All right, so James, we talked about the numerous benefits of solar power. Currently, right now in the Philippines, we talked about the status of the awareness of going as solar in terms of for the Filipinos in the current state. But then, how do you think that we should spread awareness, for citizens to turn to solar energy eventually, and for this to be the main option?
I think the easiest way is probably through, like interviews would be one way. Other ways would definitely be businesses adopting it and really pursuing it. It makes a very big difference. I mean, if we were to compare 3-4 years ago, we started our business back then in 2012, and at that time the feed-in tariff wasn't announced. There weren't any rules on importing solar panels. It was quite a challenge actually at that time to start the business. And every time we spoke to someone about, hey, would you like to, own a solar system? And then we calculated, because they would pay about 10 to 12 pesos per kilowatt hour, a payback period of 3 years. Which is, I mean, that's really, really good. Not something you'd normally get on an asset that lasts for 30 years. And they were reluctant because they would think solar, it's a new technology. They don't know about the providers here in the Philippines. They don't know about O&M. It's basically an area they're not aware of and have no experience with. So, in the first 2 years, it was a pretty challenging period. But now most have heard of it, mainly because there are advertisements. There are a lot of articles coming out where businesses have adopted clean energy. Solar, Robinsons is very big. I think they're about to power all of their malls with solar, and I think that is one of the main drivers that makes other businesses adopt it and makes them open to it. And I think and eventually that will get on the residential scale. In addition, with the additional storage technology and that being or becoming more affordable in the next 2-3 years, I think that's probably the best combination: solar and batteries, a hybrid technology that could basically charge the battery during the day and use it, deplete it at night, or you come home and use your air conditioning. So basically you're free power throughout a 24-hour period.
All right.
That independence is something we want to achieve.
All right. James Buskowitz, thank you so much for joining us here on Early Edition.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.